Hey, I didn't see you guys there. What's going on? Just kidding. There's a camera right here that we just spent some time setting up. I'm Phil, and welcome to Playground Sessions. How's it going, everyone? I don't even know what that was. It was just a little bit of fun I was having, thinking of colors and feelings and trying to come up with some improvised music. Elta John and Charles Smith and some others have asked in the past kind of what goes into my thinking there. Good question. I try and just have some fun with it and kind of play gesturally. But what was going through my head a bit was I remembered kind of halfway through that we were talking a bit about Halloween music last time, and so you may have heard me get back into this. And then I just kind of tweaked that and had some fun with it. That one was for Andrew. Say hey to Andrew, everyone. He's going to be in the chat tonight as Playground Sessions, helping funnel up questions and comments to me. Say hey to Aiden as well. He's behind the several screens, making sure things are looking and sounding good. I'm happy to be here once again, and I want to check in with you guys in the chat real quick. I saw Annette Cannon. I saw Robert Atkins. What's going on? Jeremy Shilley, Joe Kuser. What's going on, everyone? Hey, Sarah Pickles. Lynn Stewart. The crew is in the house. Glad to see you guys as always. I'm seeing some good questions come in too about Prelude in C, so let's talk about that. Today marks the end of our YouTube Live Prelude in C check-in. We've done, I think, more than 4 of these now. We've been going for about 6 weeks now or so with this challenge. We've just finished section 3, and you guys are now being asked to submit your performance videos, right, for section 4. Guess what? There are only 4 sections. That's right. Now, rookies might be thinking, hold on, we've only got to measure 11. And that's because each section we've been providing, whether it's for the rookie path or the intermediate and advanced path, there's different groups of measures per section. So what intermediate and advanced players did in section 1 was measure 1 through 11. Now, rookies, we took our time a bit more. There's a lot more to learn, obviously, for beginner students. So what we are going to ask for the rookie players to do, now that you've completed section 3, you're now ready to jump into the intermediate and advanced path, which I think is actually really exciting. What that tells me is that you guys don't really need the hand-holding as much, right? Now that you've gotten through this far, we believe that you're going to find success jumping into the intermediate path because, as you know, so far, the rhythmic pattern, the harmonic progression, and the pattern of that, it's all really repetitious. So once you know the patterns, really it's just about learning the notes in each new measure and trying to memorize it, getting it into your muscle memory and into your memory, right? Actually being able to visualize it and recall it quickly. So we're excited to say that rookies, if you guys want to keep going, and by the way, we know the pace has been kind of fast here, even at the rookie level. So we've sort of crushed through section 3, but many of you, totally okay by the way, are still working through section 2, maybe section 1 still. This stuff is not going to go away, and we encourage everyone to continue going through this at their own pace. And so no one's rushing you, but what we're going to be doing here is delivering section 4 for the intermediate path, and that's going to finish the entire song. Now, someone mentioned, it may have been Elta or Sarah, last week we're talking about the final few measures where the patterns change. Well, we're going to be giving you guys that in section 4, assuming, of course, that we get 20 video submissions in the Facebook group. That's the new number here for section 4. Expectedly, people are dropping off a bit as we get to the end. So if we can get 20 instead of 30, we're going to deliver section 4. And the few measures that were in question last time, the pattern changed a bit. I'll play it for you, actually. This is the final 3 measures of the whole piece. So we're not even going to show the notation for that right now, but I'm going to play it for you. This is the measure before, similar pattern. And then we get into this. We can all take a big 6-week-long sigh when we hear that chord, right? After all those rhythms, all those 16th notes, all that stuff, we get to the final measure of the piece and we get to finally play such a resolving chord, a big landing place on a big C major harmony. So anyways, the pattern in the right hand there, maybe you could tell, a bit more complex. We're going to break it down for you in section 4, if we get 20 video submissions, all right? So I want to get back to the chat here. Today's our last YouTube live lesson that's going to be dedicated to Prelude in C. However, as we move forward, what I'd like to do is carve out a little space within each lesson, no matter what the topic is, that we can do a check-in, a Q&A. I'll look at your questions and I'll answer them. And so what I want to say is next week, we're going to get into the Halloween spirit, all right? So I want you guys, first of all, to write your suggestions in the chat right now for your favorite Halloween piece that you'd like to learn. Not necessarily beginning to end full composition, but maybe there's just a riff you want to learn. Maybe all you need is this. That's cool. Or maybe all you need is... All right, what is it again? Is that it? Something like that. That sounded Halloween-y to me. Let me know in the chat if there's any themes or riffs that you'd like to focus on, and I'm actually going to put up some notation and teach a bit of it next week. Having said that, we're still going to carve out some time for a Q&A, and if the Q&A happens to go in the direction of Prelude in C, that's totally cool. We can keep talking about it. Okay, speaking of Prelude in C questions, I want to make sure I have enough time to get to everyone's comments and questions today. So let's get started. I'm seeing a bunch, and I'm going to get started with a question from Robert Atkins. What's up, Robert? Robert says, what is the original BPM for Prelude in C? I played an arrangement of it that was 72 beats per minute, pretty fast. Or is the BPM left up to the person's interpretation? Great question. Some of you who have jumped around between the rookie path of our Prelude in C challenge and the intermediate path may have already seen that we have presented slightly different tempos. I believe the full tempo in the rookie path is 40 BPM, and I believe in the intermediate path it might be 44. It doesn't sound very different, but at that slow of a BPM, 4 clicks can do something, especially when we're playing 16th notes. So right out of the gate, that tells you that it can be flexible. Having said that, Robert, you're probably right that an arrangement that you found outside of Playground likely called for a faster speed. Typically, I think the piece is played a bit faster, but one thing that I love about this piece, and one thing that we all on the Playground team, the music team, love about this piece, is that it also sounds really beautiful slow. It could actually sound nice really fast, too. Right? It works like that, but it also is very sweet and delicate like this. Right? So that's one thing. The music itself can dictate the speed that it wants to be, and this piece happens to be one that can be played faster or slower. What we decided to do by placing the arrangement at 40 or 44 beats per minute instead of something like 72 like you found, the decision was mostly about playability. Remember, part of this whole challenge was to see if we could get all levels of players, even beginners, playing this advanced notation, playing this advanced piece. And not a simplified arrangement, right? Rookies, you've been learning the real piece. So one way to make it a bit more accessible is to slow the tempo down. Now, Robert, the app gives you custom tempo controls. So I highly recommend that people vary up their tempos. We talked about this last week a bit too, in figuring out what is a good exercise to do to help yourself be able to play even timing. Part of it, I believe, is to try at different tempos and changing tempos. I highly encourage you to find a tempo that works for you. By no means does it have to be 40 beats per minute, okay? Great question. Here's one from Jeremy Shilley. What's up, Jeremy? I hope I'm saying your name right, by the way. Jeremy asks, He says, I'm trying to use the fingering that the sheet music is telling me to use, but whenever I try it, it's so weird that I mess up anyway. Any tips? Thank you for bringing this up. This is a great question. Sometimes we say that the fingering numbers in the sheet music are just suggestions and that really they're open to interpretation. I actually think that that's too general of a statement. I would actually say that most of the time, those fingering suggestions are correct. And what do we mean by correct? Typically, what we're looking for is the most effortless and easy and natural way for your physical hand and fingers to execute the passage of notes. You can't just look at one note at a time or two notes at a time. Often you need to look at the whole measure, the whole phrase, and you will start to see a way that your hand can lay naturally. Now, what do I mean naturally and effortlessly? Well, does this look effortless? I'm going to try and make something up. Obviously not. Why? Because I'm tense. Some of my fingers are stretched more than they should be. Others are compressed more than they should be. So we need to be looking at our hands and wrist and fingers. And you might see people do stuff like this a lot when they're playing. If you checked out our playground team member Wei Chen, her performance video of Prelude in C, you saw her doing a lot of this. I'm exaggerating here, but the point is that she is constantly checking to make sure she's fluid and not rigid and tense, okay? So that's a general rule for fingering suggestions. Can you play it relaxed? If not, maybe you need to change fingering, things like that. So that's the kind of thought that goes into what number of finger we suggest in sheet music. Most of the time, it's pretty clear which one's right. But of course, everyone's got different hand shapes and sizes. And so, yes, sometimes it's open to interpretation. And in fact, I even call out in some of these lessons in Prelude in C, maybe you've seen the video lessons that I'm talking about, sometimes there is maybe a 50-50, like either one could work the same. In other words, it's just as effortless, just as natural, just as relaxed to maybe use 3 instead of 4, for example, in the middle of a passage. All right, so having said all that, I want to get back to your question, Jeremy. You say, I try to use the fingering that the sheet music is telling me, but whenever I try, sometimes it's so weird that you mess up anyways. There's a really important thing I want you to think about with this. The fingering suggestion might be correct, but at the first time you try it, it might feel awkward for your hand. So I do not want you to use your first attempt as the judgment for whether or not it feels right to you. I want you to put a little bit of trust into it and say, you know, these guys are saying I gotta play it like this. I'm gonna learn it like that and see, okay? And often what you'll find is when you practice it enough, oh, there's a bug right in my face, you guys. We had the windows open because it's so beautiful here, but now this is one of the dangers of a live stream. Andrew, yeah, we're going to need you to get a fly swatter in here right away. Just kidding, bear with us, guys. I'm going to try to be not distracted by that. But the point I'm trying to make here, Jeremy, is often you need to practice a fingering to get it to feel natural. And I go back to this often. I'll say it again. One of the reasons is because these fingers tend to be stronger, all right? These fingers tend to be weaker. And so if we're looking at a somewhat difficult passage and we're asking you to use these fingers, chances are that's the right way to do it, but it might feel difficult to you at first. You got to practice it and get used to it, okay? So the short answer here is have a little trust in the fingering suggestions beyond your first couple of tries. Try and see if you can learn it and push through the awkwardness. You may find that it gets easier and that it actually is the overall sort of more relaxed and natural way to do it. Now, if you have a specific instance in mind, I'm happy to look at any measure right now. We can even pull it up on screen, and we can break down exactly the fingering that you're talking about. But I'll leave it there for now. Let me know, Jeremy. All right, next question here is from Joe Kuser. What's up, Joe? Joe says, any tips for consistent volume control when playing? When I'm playing soft, one rogue finger will play way too loud. When I'm playing loud, one rogue finger whispers. Help! Joe, I feel you, man. This is a big challenge when it comes to playing music expressively and dynamically. If we look at one chord or one note, it's easy enough to call a volume out or a dynamic marking out and play it, right? Let's see if I can play a chord forte. Woo! Let's see if I can play one piano. But what if we have 5 fingers and we're playing 16 16th notes per measure? It's a lot more challenging than just playing one thing, especially if we're talking about adding any kind of a dynamic arc to it. But for now, we'll leave that out. Let's just focus on your question about playing consistent volume. It's challenging, and this is one of those things, unfortunately, that there's not really a shortcut to it other than repetitive practice. So then my answer is going to focus more on what should you practice repetitively? What are we practicing to get better at that? Well, I'll tell you, you're just going to have to practice trying it and listening. And there's things that you can do to make it easier. One, slow it way down, okay? It would be hard to try and play something with control at this speed. You might accidentally do this, right? If you're slowing things down, by nature, you've got much more time to process what you're doing, to listen and react, and to think ahead intentionally about what you're trying to do. So I might suggest something like this. If you hear something like that, it's very obvious when you're going that slow, right? It's also very clear which finger it was, which note it was. So slowing tempo down is very, very helpful when it comes to isolating individual notes and trying to get them to be consistent. The other thing that I would suggest, especially if even that is difficult for you, what we're really talking about is stripping away additional challenges. Every time you practice something, there's several things you're working on at once. When I play the first 4 measures of this piece, I'm working on my touch, my even tempo. I'm working on not having one note jump out or whisper like you said, and all sorts of things, right? I'm also worrying about playing the right notes and not playing the wrong notes. So if we want to isolate one of those things to focus on, the smartest and most efficient way to do that would be to strip away some of the other challenges that are not really related to that one challenge that you want to work on. So I just listed 4 or 5 things. If my one challenge that I really want to focus on is even volume, I'm going to strip away the other stuff. Okay, what can we strip away? Even tempo? Sure. I'm always talking about wanting to play even tempo, but that's in performance mode. If we're in the practice room and we're trying to work on volume, give yourself a break. You don't have to work on even timing and volume. Take whatever time you need, because what you're focusing on here is volume. How hard and soft you're pushing each finger, okay? I might go this slow in my left hand, and then I might take a break here, that's okay. I might go a little faster here. Doesn't matter, right? Take away the extra challenge of even timing. What other challenges could you strip away? Well, I mentioned playing the right or wrong notes. Let's get rid of that. Pick some notes and work on practicing even volume. You might want to do this. Oh, still jumping out, right? But if you're not worrying about the extra notes, if you're not worried about the right or wrong notes, you've got more attention to put to the task at hand, which is even volume. And that might also come down to its simplest form. Pick 2 notes, C and C. Notice I'm closing my eyes. Why am I doing that? Well, first of all, because I can, because I've removed the pressure of playing the right notes. I'm not playing 5 notes anymore, I'm just playing 2, and my hand's not moving, okay? The second reason I'm closing my eyes is because I'm trying to listen to what I'm doing. Even that, not even that drastic of a difference. I can hear that my second one was louder, so I'm really going to focus all my attention. And you may even isolate each hand and see if you can get 10 or 20 notes with the same touch. And then go to the right hand, do the same thing. Eventually, maybe you want to alternate so that you're going left and right. Make sure one's not louder than the other. Oop, that was a little loud. I'm going to back it off. There we go. That could be your practice for 30 minutes, Jeremy. Joe, sorry. Joe, that could be your practice session for a day, honestly. And you might be done and feel kind of like exhausted from that because it's intense, focused practice. So the key here is to remember, whatever you want to work on, an individual challenge, whatever that is, try your best to strip away the other challenges so that you can focus your attention on that. I hope that helped, Joe. Let me know if you've got a follow-up on that. Let's keep things moving here. But before I go to another question or comment from the chat, I'd like to give everyone the opportunity to win a free song credit. It's pop quiz time, y'all. So what I'd like to do is call upon my notation, because section 3 is a wrap. Section 3 is over. And what that means is the final measure for rookies, I believe it was measure 11. Now, intermediate and advanced, you've already seen measure 11, but everyone should know that by now. Here's my question, everyone. First answer gets it. First correct answer gets it. What's the lowest note that the left hand plays in measure 11? Hit me. In the meantime, I'm going to play this through a little bit. Write it in the chat, and if you don't want to write your answer or don't want to participate, then you better write your Halloween theme that you want to learn for next week. I need everyone writing something in the chat. And I'll give you guys just a minute here. And Joe, I'm going to work on my even volume through this whole performance for you. I'm going to focus. Here comes measure 5. Oops, that one was a little loud. I got my eyes closed, focusing. That's measure 8. Measure 9. Just kidding, Joe. I don't want to go to measure 11 yet, but I will. Pop quiz number 1. Who wants a free song credit? It's looking like the first correct answer is my man Jeremy Shilley, y'all. Give it up for Jeremy. Free song credit. The correct answer is G.
Did you have to do the 1 dash?
No, you know, we were doing that back when it was when we were doing several more back to back. Good point. But it looks like the correct answer here is G. Measure 11 looks like this. And it is a, oh, I see. Andrew asked me whether they needed the 1 because he already wrote that. You know, we're going to go ahead and abandon that, mostly because I didn't set it up front with that rule. So sorry for the confusion there. That's my fault. But Jeremy got the correct answer. That's a G. So Jeremy, go ahead and write into support@playgroundsessions.com. Address it to Andrew, and he will hook you up. All right, let's get back to the chat. Good stuff, guys. Oh, I also want to just say an honorable mention for Elta John. There you go. You were correct as well, Elta. All right. I have a question here. Okay. Charles Smith. Charles Smith asks, Charles Smith says, I'm looking for a new audio interface. What do you use? Well, I'll give you a short answer and long answer. Short answer is I use, it's a Scarlett brand, a Focusrite, Scarlett 18i20, 18i20. That is likely overkill for the needs of some of you out there who may just want to record piano directly into their computer, for example, or do a podcast or whatever. And the main reason it's overkill is because I think there's 18 inputs on it. I think that's why they call it the 18i20. So this is the long part of the answer. I would say that what the right audio interface for you depends on your goals and your usage. What are you going to be doing with it? From there, I could give a better recommendation. But personally, here, right now, we're using the Scarlett 18i20. And I also have the Audio Box 2-channel USB. That's more of a portable one. But there's a ton of good stuff out there.
Even the solo one, too.
The Scarlet Solo is great too. Andrew's got that. That's a great brand in general. Focusrite makes good products. You may notice they kind of have the red look to them. Yeah, it's a great product. Good question. All right, so Iman Boyle, how's it going? Iman says, how can you double check your posture without taking a picture of yourself? Great question. That's such a 2020 question. Like, we could just take a selfie and see how we look. I would say that it's really important at any point when you're sitting at your instrument to make sure that you're checking in with how it feels to play. Now that goes for the fingering question that was asked earlier. I believe that was from Jeremy. Jeremy asked about even if it's the right fingering, it still can feel weird, right? So we want to be in tune with how it feels to play. That extends all the way to your body, your legs, all of that. Of course, each instrument will have its own physical differences and unique sort of considerations for posture and the feeling of being relaxed while playing. At the piano specifically, there's a couple things you want to think about. You want to first make sure that you are relaxed. You want to make sure that you're sitting on your bench in a way that gives you mobility from left to right. Now, if you're sitting at your keyboard now, I really want to encourage you to try this with me. If you sit all the way to the back of your bench, so that maybe your butt is even off the back of the bench a little bit, that might be comfortable if you're seated in a chair, for example, but that's not right for the piano, mostly because that's going to limit the degree to which you can rock left and right. Now, when I'm rocking left and right now, my thighs are able to shift downward and to the side. I know you can't see it right now, but I'm only able to do that by sitting on the front edge of my bench. It may seem counterintuitive, but you really want to make sure you are at least in the front half, if not further up front, okay? Because you want to be able to dip this way and reach all the way to the left of your 88 keys. You want to be able to lean this way and reach to the right of your 88s. Now you can do it like this, all arms, but look at how tense I am, right? You want to be able to flow naturally without looking like Frankenstein, right? Halloween callback. So that's part of it. You want to be able to have a range of motion that does not feel like you have to strain to do it. Now, speaking of Frankenstein, even if I'm seated at the edge of my bench, if my bench is scooted too far back and I have to reach out like this to play the keys, you have to be in tune with how that feels. That doesn't feel right. You don't need a picture of yourself to know that that feels too labored, too strained, okay? On the flip side, if you're too close, you're going to feel like a T-Rex, and you're going to feel hunched, and your arms are going to feel crunched in. How mobile can I really be from left to right if I'm playing like a T-Rex, right? So really what you're looking for is moderation from the distance between your belly button and the keyboard. Too far back, you're too stretched out. Too close, you're too scrunched in. So check in with how it feels to sit and play. And when I sit down at any keyboard or piano, the first thing I do is make sure that I feel like I'm in the right distance away, okay? So that's something too. Beyond that, you want to think about your back. You don't want to be hunched, but that also gets into the arm thing. It's all related, right? It's all part of the same self. You don't want to be like this. That's arms, but that's also back, right? You don't want to be too hunched. You don't want to be too stiff, shoulders up, right? It's all related. So the key thing here is to kind of wiggle a little bit. It might sound silly, but sit down at the keyboard. Make sure you're relaxed, sitting straight up, but shoulders kind of down and relaxed. And then get your arms up. Make sure you're not too far, too close. You should be good to go, Iman, if you do that checklist, okay? Now, if you're still unsure, it actually is not a bad idea to take a quick picture and see how it looks. But the key is to check in with how it feels, okay? Good question. All right, Elta John. What's up, Elta? Elta asks, what does the quarter note equals 56 mean on the sheet? Is that beats per minute? Is that what we set our metronome to? Ding, ding, ding. You got it, Elta. That's it. So, quarter note equals 56. You're right. 56 is the BPM number. That means beats per minute. That is what you set your metronome to. But there's one other thing about that statement that is worth talking about, and that is the quarter note equals. Sometimes you might just see 56 BPM, but more often you see something like that. What note value gets 56 BPM? You might see quarter note equals 56 BPM, or you might see half note equals 56 BPM. You would set your metronome the same either way, to 56, but the notation would move at a much different speed. In fact, twice as fast. If a half note is going once, or let's see, 56 times per minute, then that means there are 2 quarter notes every time 56 beats per minute, right? A half note equals 2 quarter notes. If a quarter note equals 56, you would count something in 4/4 like this. Not that this is 56 BPM, but let's say it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. If it said half note equals 56, my snaps would be the same speed, but I would actually count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 2 counts, right? Or half note equals 2 quarter notes. I would count 2 of those for every click or beat in your metronome at 56 BPM. So it's 2 things. One is the beats per minute. The other is what note value do you count per beat, per click, okay? Good question. You got it. Here's one from Sarah P. Sarah Pickles, what up? Sarah says, silly question, but why is it that when I'm learning the second half, do I forget how to play the first half? Am I just overthinking? My answer would be, get the app. Just kidding, Sarah. It's not a silly question at all, okay? And here's proof to you that we do not believe it's a silly question. Well, actually, you may not know because you're not in the challenge, but what we do each new day of a new lesson that we release for Prelude in C, now that we're into the later measures of the piece, right? We've already learned a bunch and we're still learning new stuff. What we've done is we've built in reviews to the new lessons. So let's say, here comes the first lesson of section 4. We're going to learn something new. Next lesson, maybe another new thing. But eventually, when we learn section 4, the next lesson, the next new lesson, is going to include reviews of the older stuff. It's so crucial to review. It's not a silly question. It's not any sign that you have forgotten or that you can't learn it. It's not that at all. Not a silly question. It is crucial, even for professionals, to review what they've already learned. How else can it stay fresh? I also want you to think about this. There's really 2 elements at play when you're learning and retaining music. There's your mental brain, your memory, and then there's your physical muscle memory of your hands. Now, often, intellectually, we get stuff quicker than we do physically. You may learn something in a lesson with me, oh, it's just this. I see that, I understand it. Then the next day, you might still remember it intellectually, but your hands might forget where to go or what notes you're supposed to play, okay? So there's 2 things at play. The review often can help both of those things. You may forget intellectually what it was, and or your hands may kind of forget what to do. More often, though, it's about your hands. And you can go back and review the notation, and it kind of jogs your memory, and then your hands get the review. It's crucial to review. I highly encourage it, even if you feel like you still remember the early stuff. Just dust it off, okay? I do it. Andrew, Aiden, everyone does it, okay? Wee Chen probably even reviews her old stuff from time to time, okay? It's maybe. She's also a machine. You guys, she can sight read stuff better than I can play it when I've practiced it, okay? Wee is awesome. But you hear my point. Reviewing is important, and it's not silly. Oh, I don't know. If I accidentally said Elta, I meant Sarah. Sorry, that was a Sarah question. Okay. Here's another one. This one's from Iman Boyle again. Let's go. Iman says, do you ever break up your practice by playing the piece in totally different styles? Oh, sweet. That's a fun question. All right, I'm going to dig into this one a bit. Iman says, pop, swinging, vampire chords, just for fun. This is cool. So I really love this question because it gets at sort of the self-exploration element to learning music. This is one reason why some people may shy away from classical music in general, is because often everything's written out for you and that's the right way to do it, right? And it doesn't leave as much room as something like jazz, for example, or blues, to put your own thing to it. But that's for performance mode. I want everyone to remember there's a big difference between performing for people and saying, here's what I've done, look at my accomplishment, and practicing something on your own for a given purpose. Maybe it's to practice even volume, right? Maybe it's to practice the right fingering. Maybe it's to see if you really know that piece. Well, how can you test that? Maybe you can try it in different styles. That's something right out of my playbook. I really love that. So I personally, I do that. I don't necessarily say, now I'm going to do it jazz and like practice an arrangement of it like that. But instead, I'll keep it a little more vague and I'll say, all right, here's Prelude in C as it's supposed to be. And then I'll say, it might be fun to see if I can kind of swing that, for example, as you say. So how would I swing that? Oh. That's kind of fun. Now, I will caution you with that. Don't forget that anything you practice is going to be building towards some kind of muscle memory. You're teaching your hands, whatever you're practicing. And so it's important to balance that kind of practice with actual, I hate to use the word correct practice, but if you're trying to learn Prelude in C and you want to be able to play it, you've got to, traditional, thank you, Andrew, you've got to be able to practice it that way so you can play it that way. If you practice it more often like that, or like, oh, I'm going to try it minor and swing. I'm going to try it in 3/4. Right? It's like it's a fun exercise to free up your mind, to practice improvising. But I will actually say that it's probably counterproductive to actually learning the piece in the traditional sense. So once again, moderation is really, really a great pursuit in anything, I believe. And here, what that means is if you want to have some fun playing different styles, make sure you're balancing that out with the traditional practice as well. But it all comes down to your goals too. If you just want to have some fun with it, there's really no wrong way to do it. And I'm all about making sure that your musical pursuits are fun. It's key. It's key. All right, so let's see if we can get, anybody want to learn another song credit? Earn. Anybody want to earn another song credit? I bet you do. So let's see if we can get another pop quiz going. Let's go to pop quiz number 2, okay? And let's see here. What do we want to do here? I would like to ask sort of a general question. This is going to call upon some things that we've talked about in previous live lessons before getting into Prelude in C. This is going to have to do with harmony. It's going to have to do with chord functions and things like that. All right? Do you guys remember when we talked about tonic, dominant, those kind of things? I hope so, because this question is going to be about that. So, this piece is called Prelude in C. That means C major. C major would be the tonic. Then we go to this chord and this chord. Those chords all have names too in this sense. So what I'm going to ask you is a general question. What is the name of the chord that is the dominant chord in this key? Remember, we're in the key of C major. And that means C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and C major. Those are all the chords in root position triad form that make up this key. I've told you that C major is the one chord, or the tonic. What chord is the dominant in this key? And I'm going to go ahead and, this one's for Iman. I'm going to go ahead and try to play a different style. He mentioned vampire chords. I'm going to see if I can figure out what that means.
To say vamping, it was autocorrect.
Oh, I got you. Thank you for the clarification. You know, the reason I thought you meant vampires is because we were talking about Halloween stuff earlier. Yeah. So, hey, happy accident. I like it. I'm going to keep going with that. But you say vamp. I do want to give you an answer for that too, Iman. A vamp typically refers to a repeating, looped section. Often the harmony is not changing, or if it is, it's minor, you know what I mean, subtle. And then that will repeat. So I might vamp on something like, you know, let's say I wanted to do a vamp just in C major. So that's, you could think about a vamp like kind of a repeating harmony underneath, or I could vamp a progression, things like that. Yeah, that's totally valid too. Anything you want to explore, go for it. And that's kind of what a vamp style might be. But I kind of want to have some fun with this vampire chord thing, even though I know that's not what you meant, Iman. So when I think of vampire chord, I obviously think minor. But I also think about a chord progression. It's going to have a minor 2 in there. It's probably going to have a dominant with a sharp 5. That's the minor 3rd of the 1 chord. So that kind of minor sound. And I'm also going to think about something that's a bit scary, a bit jarring. So I'm not going to play it really sweetly. I might do it more like. And so Prelude in C as a vampire might sound like. All right, well, that was fun. So, to repeat one more time, pop quiz number 2 question is, what is the dominant chord in the key of this song? Do we have any answers?
Guess who got it? Iman Boyle.
Iman Boyle got it. The dominant chord in this key would be built from G. So it's a G chord. And that's the simplest version of that answer. Iman just wrote G. I like that. I like that confidence. What's that? John Sandlin's got it. G major. That's correct. I would say that the official absolute correct answer would be G7 or G dominant 7. However, G works, G major works, and here's why. The chord is built from G, and in its simplest form, it's a G major triad. Once we add a 4th note to that chord, and we make it a 7th chord, diatonically speaking, it's meant to be a major chord with a flat 7. That quality of a chord is also known as a dominant 7th chord. Major triad, flat 7th. So correct answer if you said G, correct answer if you said G major. The ultimate correct answer would have been G7 or G dominant 7. I wonder if anyone wrote that.
No.
Okay, cool, no problem. So we have a lot of half answers. Like Sarah Pickle said 7th. A dominant 7th chord is the full name of that dominant chord. But I was looking for the letter. What is it built off of? Is it a D dominant, E dominant, A dominant? It's G. And I want you to remember this. Tonic equals 1, the 1 chord, the first note in the scale. Dominant is 5, the 5th note of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's G. So we would build a major triad from that note, and we would add a flat 7th of that chord. Okay? So, Iman, you did it, my friend. You got a free song credit. Reach out to support@playgroundsessions.com. Andrew will hook you up. Okay? Good work. Yeah, that was a tricky one, you guys. It's been a while since we've talked about that. So kudos to you who remembered that. It was kind of a reach, though, on my end. So I appreciate you guys participating in that one. In fact, that's some of that theory material that it might be nice to pepper in more often, right? More regularly to whatever it is that we're talking about. But for now, just remember, tonic, dominant. Arguably the two most important notes and chords in a key, okay? The 1 and the 5. All right, everyone. I think what I'd like to do is talk just for a minute here about kind of what's next for the month, and then see if I can get anyone to say a Halloween theme. Andrew, have you seen anyone writing Halloween themes in the chat? Come on, everyone. Last week, you guys started the lesson with all these Halloween themes. I thought, hey, let's give them what they want. I'm hearing crickets now. So it's okay. If I don't hear anything in the chat, what I'm going to plan to do is come up with 2 riffs. I'll pick them next week, and we'll get into it. I think someone said Addams Family earlier on, and so that'll be one of them. I'll pick something else for next time. But we're going to be doing a Halloween theme lesson next week. and we will also carve some time for a Q&A. But I'm gonna say after that. Oh, here we go. I see you, Lily Mae. Lily Mae says Monster Mash. Ooh, Dark and Stormy Night. Yeah, Robert's saying there were a lot listed. Maybe we missed them. We'll have to scroll through, and we'll make sure we don't miss them. Here we go. Now they're coming. So that's going to be next week. We'll take it from there, but if we're done with Halloween after next week, what I'd love to do is get back to the topic that you guys voted on before Prelude in C. And just to jog memories, that was reharmonization. So briefly, I'll just kind of recap what that means and what we might talk about. Harmonization, well, first of all, harmony, I think we all know that, right? We can typically have a melody, and we can have harmony. And often, especially with a song like that, the harmony is pretty set in stone. We know what it's supposed to be. But a reharmonization is the practice of changing that harmony, but keeping the melody intact. And that can be really fun because it can open up a lot of cool possibilities. I'm going to try to make up 3 different versions of, what was that, Mary Had a Little Lamb? And I'm going to reharmonize it, okay? So each time I go, I'm going to make it a little weirder, all right? So here's the normal one. Okay, melody intact, new harmony. It still needs to sound good with the melody. So let's try this instead. Okay, that works. That was kind of cool. Let's try another one. Questionable, right? Because the melody kind of changed on the top. That's okay. I'm just exploring. Let's do another one. That got kind of into the jazz universe there. But I hope you see my point. Reharmonization can be super fun because you take something as basic and elementary as Mary Had a Little Lamb, 1-5-1, tonic dominant, right? And if you decide to break the chains of traditional harmony rules and instead just think, hey, this note could sound cool over that chord, then yeah, you open up a world of possibilities. Now, there is some theory to be learned and discussed in that world as well. It's not just random guessing. You can create alternate progressions. You can there's all sorts of stuff. So that is the topic that people voted on, that you guys voted on, at least the majority. And I'd like to say that after we wrap up our Halloween stuff, oh man, they're all coming in now. Phantom of the Opera, yeah, baby. So we're going to get into Halloween stuff, but I really want to answer your vote on reharmonization. And so we're going to get into that as well. Once we're done with Halloween and reharmonization, you guys aren't going to believe this, but we're going to be in holiday music mode. More on that in a bit. We're cooking up something special.
Can you go over dominant 7 again?
I can, yeah. Andrew, okay, good. So Andrew's asking if I can talk about dominant 7 again.
Like, how do you build it?
Yeah, totally. So this is for Elta, and then we're going to wrap things up for today. A dominant 7th chord. So I mentioned that in a given key, the dominant chord is the chord that's built from the 5th scale degree. Let's start there. So key of C. All white keys, the key signature is easy enough in that sense. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a G. So now we're going to build a triad from that note using the scale degrees. So we're not going to count these notes because those aren't in the key of C. So we'll use this key of C. We'll count up. We'll make a triad. Now, to make it a 7th chord, we're just going to keep counting up through the scale. There's a G7. But if we don't want to think about that in the context of a key, like the 5 chord of that key, there's another way to do it, okay? You can pick any note, and if you want to build a dominant 7th chord from that note, you can. You don't have to know whether it's 5 of 1 or what. So let's pick a note. Let's pick F. Okay? We need to build a major triad from here. Now, you could lean on your scale to do that, or if you forget the scale, remember your half-step pattern. A major chord is root, whatever note you pick, and then you go up 4 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you go up 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, there's a major chord. Now, we have a flat 7 on top. We just need to go 3 more half steps. So this dominant 7th chord looks like that. We do have a black key there. Okay, you can do it from another note. Let's try D flat. Okay, you go up 4 half steps. Okay, go up 3 half steps. And there's our major triad. We go up 3 more half steps. Dominant 7th chord, okay? So it can help to identify a dominant 7th chord if you know the key you're in and you know that kind of tonic dominant lingo. But if you don't and you just want to come up with a dominant 7th chord, you can do that way. I hope that helps. If not, let's talk about it more next week. I will see you guys 1 week from today, same time, same screen, and we're going to be jamming on some Halloween stuff. Wear a costume if you like. We'll see if I am. See you guys next week.